get that in place, but compare online to get the best price. And book your car rental. Honestly, once I turned up to an airport arrivals desk for car hire, and my goodness, well, you're a captive audience, aren't you? I got completely and utterly ripped off and regretted not having booked it, obviously, before I went on holiday. So plan those holiday extras in advance, and you can do all that on our website as well. But I was just thinking, actually, I mentioned short-haul holidays, but we've just done some research looking at prices, and it's as cheap, if not cheaper, to go long-haul this summer than it is to go short-haul. So I'd really recommend looking at, if it interests you, Orlando. I found deals the weekend after next for £390 each, 3-star hotel in Orlando, including the flight. And if you get the same flight, it costs you £596. So booking that package, even if you want to go and stay somewhere else for a couple of nights during that week, it's going to save you money. So I'd say look long haul, look low season Thailand. You might get a bit of rain overnight or a bit in the morning, but for those kind of £450 for 10 days in Thailand, it's worth looking long haul as well.
You can follow me on Twitter @holiday_hut. The reason Travel Supermarket contacted me to come on the show is because I've done some research into package holidays. They've been around a few years now, and they had James Ellis in, who's a travel writer, to talk about the findings. So the first thing I asked was, James, was how long have package holidays been around?
Well, package holidays with flights, the first one was 65 years ago. 1952, Horizon Holidays took the first people out to Mallorca. That was the first package with an actual flight involved. There were package holidays before that, but that's the first time that package holiday was in the kind of form that we recognise them today. And the thing is that although package holidays are 65 years old now, they still retain that vitality of youth that they always had. So they're a great way of people getting abroad relatively cheaply and very, very easily.
So people still go on package holidays and they don't all do it themselves?
There are 14 million people planning a package holiday this year, according to research by TravelSupermarket.com. So they've gone around, they've asked people around the country and said, what will you be doing for holiday this year? And I think that's a massive amount of people. 14 million people plan to go on a package holiday.
So what do people worry about when they're searching for a holiday?
Well, I think people worry about where they're going to go, what they're going to do when they get there, and ultimately what the cost is. And the one thing that we have seen recently is that with all the upset that we've had, the Brexit negotiations, the election last week, some of the terror attacks and things like that, the actual prices of holidays have dropped because demand is low. People have been waiting to book their holidays. So if you go online right now and search around, you can come up with some really, really good deals.
So package holidays still offer good value for money as well as the protection that comes with them?
Well, protection is really important for people, obviously. Nobody wants to go abroad and get stranded in the unlikely event that something happens. But package holidays definitely do offer that protection. You need to look out for things like the Atoll logo and the Abta logo. They're two organisations that help bond package holidays to make sure that you're safe when you go away. And as long as the company's got those, why not go with it on a package holiday? It's a great way of getting away.
So there's great advantages to having a package holiday, but why do some people decide they want to do it themselves?
Well, I think some people just like the idea of exploring, don't they? And that's the one thing about holidays, is it gives you the chance to go abroad and sample different cultures. So, for instance, you can go to Greece and be on a Greek island, sunning yourself on the beach and eating fantastic food in the Greek taverna somewhere. Or you can fly over to Orlando for a week and be zooming around the theme parks. I was over there last week for the opening of Volcano Bay, which is Universal's new water park in Orlando. And that was an absolutely fantastic experience. So people like that idea of a package because they can go to these places relatively easily and include everything in there. Of course, that's not for everybody. Some people do like that idea of exploring. But then usually if you're putting things together yourself, it can be more expensive. And it can just be more of a hassle to do than buying a package holiday. So package holidays aren't for everybody. But if you want something nice, relatively easy, relatively simple to book, then package holidays is definitely the way forward.
I used to be a travel agent, and there's lots of stories of people doing their first non-package holiday and they forget all the things that come with it, such as the transfers, the protection, being looked after if the flight is delayed. So I think package holidays for most people is still the way to go. But what was your...
Well, I think that's why we're seeing 14 million people looking at booking one this year. And I mean, when you look at the stats from these things, more than 60 people across the nation have been on a package holiday. 29%, so 30% of those people said their first package holiday was to Spain. And Spain's still very, very popular. It's still a great place to go. Greece is still very popular in both places, despite this idea of, everybody's talking about the drop in the pound and stuff like that. The way of life is particularly cheap still, particularly in Greece. You can go to Greece and get a fantastic meal for under 10 euros per person. That will include a main course, some salads, maybe a beer or a glass of wine or something. So it's a great way to go.
You can keep up to date with travel news and leave me a message at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. Before we come to the end of my conversation with James Ellis, who's representing Travel Supermarket, I wanted to know what his early memory of package holidays was. I mean, he's talking about the history of them. I wondered what his own personal history was, and this is what James had to say.
So my earliest package holiday memory, I was actually brought up in Greece, and one of the reasons for that is the first package holiday that myself and my family ever went on. Way back in 1975, Mum decided she was going to leave the dreary South Yorkshire mining town that we lived in and head over to Crete for 3 weeks. So she packed myself and a sister and a friend of hers. They got all the bags together and went up to the airport. It was the first time I'd ever been near an airport, the first time I'd ever been on a plane. And we flew to this gorgeous resort called Ilunda in Crete. We spent 3 weeks there. It was absolutely magical. And on the final night, we went down to the hotel restaurant for dinner, and they covered the table in the most gorgeous floral arrangement. And my mum saw it and just burst into tears, and she said, "I think I've lived here in a past life." And lo and behold, 1.5 years later, she actually decided to up sticks and go and live in Greece, and she's been there ever since.
So it's not only a way of relaxing, it can be life-changing as well.
Well, absolutely, and I think that is what travel does to us, isn't it? It allows us to see things outside of the norm, and that is really, really important, that we broaden our horizons. The world is becoming much more volatile, let's say, but on the other hand, I think experiencing other cultures, getting to know other people, and us all becoming much more of a melting pot where we all understand each other. I think that's just the way forward, and I think holidays really help people do that.
Checking it out before you check in on the John Guinn Travel Show on ukhealthradio.com. So that was James Ellis and Emma Coolhurst from Travel Supermarket. What's your own personal earliest memory of a package holiday? Was it a great trip? Was it like me 100 years ago, or was it... I have to stop saying 100 years ago because that's all I'm saying in a minute now, officially. But anyway, what's your earliest package holiday memory? Mine wasn't really 100 years ago. It was when I first went long haul with my girlfriend, now wife. We went to Mexico and we got really, really ill. And the rep had no interest in it whatsoever. He just blamed us all for drinking too much. I didn't drink. There's nothing. I only drink cider. There's no cider in Mexico, I found. Well, not where I was. So sickness was a real problem. The flight back from Mexico was 15 hours. That was very entertaining if you sat too close to the toilets. And they had a gala event, and you could see people disappearing from the tables one by one, trotting off, or maybe dozens at a time, trotting off to the toilets because they had an urgent call. So that was a proper, as I would say, a possible claim, but you didn't claim about those sort of things back those days. You just put up with it and just put it down to your holiday. But more and more people seem to be claiming for sickness, well, according to the travel industry anyway. And it's something that Frank brought up on the show at the beginning of the year, and now you can't open a paper without reading about it. And one trade magazine is having a campaign about it. So I went back to Frank to ask him about these sickness claims.
I have been talking about this since 2008. And for the benefit of your listeners, I'm going to put a lot of this in perspective. I recently delivered a speech with the Claims Management Regulator, the Ministry of Justice, giving my take on what is going on. And in all of the commentaries I've seen, and I've been looking at some of the last few days online, and the commentaries are coming from people who should frankly know better. Because quite honestly, I have not seen any statistics that demonstrates that holiday claims is the problematic area that is being claimed. That is distinct as to say that, you know, there are difficulties, and I will come to that. But when you look at the Department of Work and Pensions figures on civil claims that are being made across all of the categories, probably with one exception that is kind of treading water, across all of the categories, claims that are being registered, because if you have a personal injury claim, you have to register the claim with the Department of Work and Pensions. They have been falling since 2013. Very clearly, they've been falling. You know, from a kind of a plus, you know, sort of I think it's 1.4 million down to about just under 900,000 a year. Okay, and that's right across the board. And in the category that holidays sit, it's very clear that claims are indeed falling. Now, that's the principal point that has to be made. It's all about putting it into context. You know, is this a runaway problem? I think my first response to that question is no, it isn't a runaway problem, insofar as ordinary consumers are concerned. But then here's the but. What we've got and what's happened, and I've seen this since 2013 now, really into 2014, that there are claims companies, the EPIs of this world, who have decided, because their work type is coming to an end, that they're going to move into other areas. And travel happens to be one of them. And they are industrial in their scale, in how they advertise and how they extract claims. But for the majority of those claims, most lawyers will take a look at some of the so-called claims from these feeds that they're getting. They'll know perfectly well that there's no mileage in the claims whatsoever, and you know they'll be advising the client accordingly. And then there is the issue of what goes on in resorts. And I've been extremely clear. You know, these individuals who are driving around in claims ambulances abroad, or handing out bottles of water, or putting iPads in pharmacies, or indeed providing what they call travel aftercare calls to returned holidaymakers. This is the element that needs to be dealt with. This is the element that needs to be confronted by governments and indeed the travel industry, because I have repeatedly said over many years, if you have instances and evidence of fraud, feed it to the police. If you as a consumer, for example, put in a fraudulent claim, you're going to get done under the Fraud Act here in this country. If you are a seeker in a resort in a foreign destination, the law that covers that area can have you prosecuted in this country. You can be prosecuted for inciting and bringing about a fraudulent claim in this country. So there is no hiding place. But what the problem here is that there are scant resources. And here is where I would shout from the hills that more money needs to be given to the claims management regulator. They need the resources to get in. Now, I'm going to put another serious point in this. Why is this happening in resorts? Well, John, you may recall one of the areas that I have been covering now for quite a few years is the issue of crime in resorts. And there are resorts, popular resorts that Brits go to, which reveal human trafficking, sex for sale problems, and drug problems, and so on and so forth. And there is a criminality in a number of resorts. And it is quietly accepted amongst various people that I've spoken to that some of the issues that take place in resort with regard to claims has a kind of a criminal gang support going on in these resorts. And as I've said, particularly